Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopiyanga Vallabha Krishna ki, Srimad Damodam ki, Sri Mahaprabhu Navajit Dham ki, Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki, Tamavira Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories and devotees, all glories and devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gurunga. From the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is the 6th chapter, and it is verse number 11. Everyone here is familiar with the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think. It is a natural commentary on the Vedanta, isn't it? Natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutta, which was compiled by Vyasa. Right? Summary of all the Vedas. Vedas are very extensive. So they're so extensive that they need to be summarized to some extent. So the sutras, they are summaries of the very complex Vedas. Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, so on. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, it is a summary of all these Vedas, plus the Mahabharata and the Puranas are also included. So this is the epistemological system of Jiva Goswami. He says this is the greatest source of all knowledge we find in the Vedas, because he's taken Vyasa's, summarized everything and contained it beautifully. And the acharyas, the various devotees of the parampara, they can extract that information. Book Bhagavat, person Bhagavat. So there's the book Bhagavat and there's the person Bhagavat. So you require the person Bhagavat to be able to extract that information, and therefore we have the purports of all our acharyas. And A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has written this Bhagavatam, and he has especially written it for Western audiences who know nothing about the Vedas. So these are very wonderful purports, and we see in his purports he very much includes Western thinking in the sense that he gives various parallels and brings in Western culture and gives comparisons to Vedic culture, and we can see through these purports the correct systems of thinking and calculating, and everything is concluded, as Prabhupada says in his purports many times. He says that science, political systems, economic systems, social systems, everything is contained in the Vedas. So the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is destined to open up the whole world to the knowledge of the Vedas, and it's up to the younger generation, yourselves, to find out what's in it and how to apply it. That has not been done yet. So Prabhupada said, I've set the framework, he said. I've set the framework, now you build on that. This is what Prabhupada said. So please do so. Dedicate your lives to Prabhupada's mission. What else have you got to do with your life? I mean, you know, you may have some other things to do, but at the same time balance it out with serving Prabhupada's mission. So we'll get on to this verse today, and we shall chant the verse. This is verse number 11. Atatasya bita tasya, atatasya bita bita. It's not the right word. Oh, sorry. Good job you spotted that out. Okay, tasya gnya asya nirbhyanam lokapalo vilasat padam vacha svam sena vyaktavyam yaryaso pratipadyate. Tasyagnya asyam nirbhyanam lokapalo visatpadam vacha svam sena vaktavyam yayaso pratipadyate. Okay, someone else wants to have a go? Tasya asyam lokapalo vishapadam Yaso Paripadyate Tasyagnyasya Nirvinam Lokapalo Vishaparam Vachasamya Chavam Ladies? Lokapalo Vishaparam Vachasamya Chavam Yara Pasipadyate Tasyagerasya Nevedam Lokapalo Vishaparam Vachasamya Yasa Tasya, his, Agnya, mouth, Asyam, Agnya fire, Asyam, mouth, Nirbanam, thus separated. Lokapalaha, the directors of material affairs, Avisat, entered, Padam, respective positions, Vacha, by words, Sva Amsena, by one's own part, Vyaktavayam, speeches, Yasya, by which, Aso, they, Patipadyate, express. Translation, Agni or heat separated from the mouth, and all the directors of material affairs entered into it in their respective positions. By that energy, the living entity expresses himself in words. Please repeat. Agni or heat separated from his mouth, and all the directors of material affairs entered into it in their respective positions. By that energy, the living entity expresses himself in words. Purport of Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Manor. The mouth of the gigantic universal form of the Lord is the source of the speaking power. The director of the fire element is the controlling deity, or the Adhideva. The speeches delivered are adhyatma, or bodily functions, and the subject matter for the speeches in material productions is, or the abhibhuta principle, is the material productions, or the abhibhuta principle. Omagana Tamrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshushamalatam Jena Tasmat Sri Guruvin Maha. Sri Chaitanya Manobisham Tabatam Jena Bhutali, Swan Rupagalam Malayam Dananti Swadhanik. Namam Shabraya Guruvin Madhishwara Govinda Samani. Jai Shri Prabhupada Jagat Guru say the entire world. So today we're trying to represent the teachings of the Acharyas. And as you know, our line goes back. We have our current Diksha or Shiksha Gurus. And Bhanu Swami gave a very good class the other day, not so long ago, about Diksha, Shiksha Gurus. Excellent class. You heard? Yeah, very good class. Diksha, Shiksha, no difference. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada, right there. Of course, they serve different functions, that's all. So we have Srila Prabhupada, we're trying to represent our own Shiksha Gurus, Diksha Gurus, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Maharaj, Narottam Das Thakur, Lokanath Swami, Krishnadas Gavin Maharaj, the six Goswamis, Rup Sanatnam Bhatta Raghunath, Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nityananda. This is the line we represent, the Gaudiya Vaishnava line. So we shall try to delineate some of their thinking on these topics, and Prabhupada has given indication here as to what this verse is all about. So we can see here he's speaking about the Adideva, Adibhuta, Adhyatma. Adideva, Adibhuta, Adideva. So Prabhupada says in other places that the Adideva, in this particular example here, refers to Krishna as the universal form, and also included in that form are the demigods, because they're cooperating within the universal form. The universal form of the Lord has a specific function. So when the Lord has a function to fulfill, he looks for the cooperation of his devotees. So the demigods, they're called upon not only to individually play out their own lives and their own material desires, because they are sakama devotees. Sakama means they are devotees, but they have some material desires. So Krishna will utilize such devotees, particularly who are very well versed and very well practiced in devotional life. He will utilize them in much greater services. So Lord Brahma and the other demigods, they are serving in that way. So the universal form is in this example, Prabhupada says, the Adideva. The Adideva is the combined universal form, including the demigods and the super soul who's acting within everyone's heart, and even within every single atom. Because in the beginning of creation, because in the beginning of have you ever not? It says in the Bhagavad Gita, there's never been a time when you didn't exist. What does that mean? We have to contemplate what that means. Eternal. But at the same time, although you're eternal, Balaramji, he has manifested you. So, Krishna has become many. So, although you're eternal, you become many. So, this is something we can contemplate and consider. How you come from, I think that the one thing to consider is that you are from somebody who is eternal. You're part and parcel of somebody that's eternal. Therefore, that somebody, namely Balaram, he has become many. And because you're part of Lord Balaram, you are considered that there's never been a time when you didn't exist, because you come from the same energy. I think that's the way to... Everyone agree with that? So you're eternal because Krishna says never in a time when it didn't exist. What does that mean? It means you come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's always existed. Just like perhaps you give an example of a father. Within the father there is potential of creation of many children. So in that sense, you could look at that as an analogy. So at the point of Balaramji manifesting all the jivas, the question is, when your father or your guardian or when you came from them, did they give you knowledge of what the correct aspects of life are? Did your father and mother teach you good things? I'm sure they did. So, this is the truth of the Tatashta region where Lord Balaram, he manifests so many jivas, including you and me. But when he manifested the jivas, he must have given indication as to why he manifested you. Just like a father, he gives knowledge of what the right direction of life is. What is life, isn't it? The father or the teacher gives you everything. So Balaram would have given us everything we needed to know to some extent. He would have told you that I worship or I serve Krishna. I am the servant of Krishna, and I have manifested you, and he's inviting us to follow the truth by following his example. Do you think that's a fact? Balaram would have indicated these things to us. Why would he not indicate these things to us? What do you think, Lokavanda Prabhu? Do you think when Balaram manifested us, I speak about this because this is before the creation of the universal form, why we've entered into this realm. So, you have a... Huh?
Immediately afterwards, Balaram manifested us. Where did we go?
Where did he go? Oh, well, this is the question. The question is, the question Lokabana is asking is that when Balaram manifested, where did we go? Well, I suspect that Balaram, being all-knowing, could detect in individual jivas that somehow or other you are not flowing in the direction that I am indicating. You're not really picking up on what I'm saying, or you're not voluntarily manifesting your free will that has been given to you. You're not desiring to necessarily place that free will and that attraction to where I place my free will and attraction and love. And therefore, having detected such, Hare Krishna, having detected such a spirit, it is incumbent on Lord Balaram and Krishna to make arrangements for the jiva to live out a life that he chooses because he has free will. So this is what's going on in the within the material realms, and to facilitate this separate desire which is detected by the Lord, he ultimately has to teach us and inspire us how to live such a life, because we are fully dependent on him. So the Sadbhuj principle is there, that the Vishnu, through the Sadbhuj principle, is showing the jiva how to engage in the material energies. He sets example. This is how to be an enjoyer of the material energy. This is there in the scriptures. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Is there now is this time for questions? Can we, or would you wish to rather?
You can ask a question, yeah.
Okay. Since this is a statement, what you're offering, that, you know,
Since
jivas,
what time?
since this is a statement, and you making a statement about the jivas and Balaram connection.
I'm making an observation, a logical, rational way of thinking of why is the jiva, when the jiva is first manifested.
So, if for my own personal clarification, would you mind offer some reference to this, please? Bhagavatam. Yes, please.
Reference to that would be that in the Shastra it is said.
Anything specific? Bhagavatam,
Well,
Lagu Bhagavatam, Rita?
not necessarily, but you can look it up. The God has become many. Right? Krishna has become many. So, you understand that point?
I do. I just ask for reference.
Well, you can look it up. How you can look up on Vedabase how God has become many, and he'll manifest. He's manifesting himself through Balaram, through the Tatashta Rishnas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Jaivadharma will give further clarification of this. But what I'm indicating by logic and rationale is that just as the jiva, just as the father manifests his children and he gives knowledge to them, Krishna, when he manifests the jiva through Balaram, he would have given knowledge and access to himself. Does anyone disagree with that? And if he didn't give access and knowledge of himself, wouldn't that be something that one would consider kind of, well, why not? So there, these things, I think we have to look at things rationally and honestly as to the situation we find ourselves in, and why I say these things, because we were thrown and covered by the material energy. Adhyatmic, Adhibhautik, Adhidevik. The Adhidevic principle here is the jivas is the universal form, and the demigods who are creating this material facility for us and throwing us into it and covering us. That is what's going on. And the Adhyatmic is the jiva who is experiencing these things with his body and his mind. And the Adhibhuta is although the jiva with his body and mind is made of the material elements, same time, the material energy is a separate energy from him. So though he's placed within the material energy, with his body, mind, and senses, same time, he's within an energy which is acting differently from him. So that's something to be considered. And the Adhibhuta means, Prabhupada says, you take birth, you dwindle, you remain for some time, and then you die. So this principle of the Adhibhuta, the energies of the material world, why they work like they do, is called the Adhibhuta. For instance, your cells in your body are changing, constantly changing. But after a period of time, they won't replenish themselves. You become old. This is the Adhibhuta principle. You don't know why it's taking place. Prabhupada once sat on the Vyasasana and he said, I'm sitting on this Vyasasana and I do not know how my digestion is working, how my body is working, how my heart is working, how all aspects of my body are working. I do not understand any of these things. So this is the adibhuta. It's going on automatically. In fact, if you took one single cell and pulled it apart and told the best of the scientists, here is the cell, we've taken it all apart, put it back together again. They will be clueless. They wouldn't know how to do it. So although this is called the adibhuta principle, it's so complex energies, and you could examine the adibhuta principle a lot further as well, like the ACs, TGs, and the DNA system. Sariputta Prabhu said that the Lord Balaram, Lord Brahma, he has all the genetic codes within him. He has all the machinery that's required to create all the bodies. He knows it well because he's been given that code by Krishna. So then what he does with that code is he manifests various projetas, and they have some of them codes, and then they manifest. And this is how speciation takes place. Now the question on speciation, which the Darwinians quite often contemplate, myself and Ramana Singapore, we quite often have we have discussions with them on site sometimes. So what I would suggest to them is that actually the principle of speciation took place a long time ago. This is nothing new. There's nothing new, because the Vedic view is that the material universes are created, maintained, and destroyed over and over again in cyclic movements. So, the last time this particular universe was destroyed, this universe is currently 155 trillion years old, and it goes on for 311 trillions. It's halfway through. So when it's finished, it will be brought back into Krishna. And then again, after a period of time, it will be manifest. And all the activities of the jivas in their previous creation will again come about. So sometimes the Darwinian philosophers begin to consider that life came from one single cell and so on and so forth. But the Vedic view is that this speciation, this creation, in the adibhuta principle, has been going on since time immemorial. There's nothing new. It's just that speciation is again rebooted, and the same principles begin to work again. So this is the Vedic view, that the evolution that they're speaking about now is nothing new. Speciation is nothing new. It's just simply rebooted and it starts all over again from where it took place. So the original speciation, which I was trying to indicate in the beginning of this class, as to when the jiva, when he first was manifested, this might be a bit too heady for a lot of people, when the jiva was first manifested, because another principle is that Krishna is constantly expanding himself, isn't it? Krishna is constantly expanding himself. It's another thought to look at. But when the jiva first came from Lord Balaram, and facility were required at that time, speciation, you could say, took place. But it does indicate in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in fact, I think Prabhupada mentions, that when you first leave the Tatastha region, everyone becomes Lord Brahma. But actually that's not the case, but it does say that in some people have that view, that everyone becomes Lord Brahma. But that's a misunderstanding of the actual case. What it means is that everyone is under Lord Brahma's control. And because when you first come to this material world, you'd be reasonably well situated in your consciousness, and therefore the type of speciation or type of body that you would require would be quite an elevated body. You'd have quite a reasonable amount of knowledge. Right? Just like someone who has very good education, through association of such highly cultured persons, someone that's very good, they would lead a very good, educated, cultured life. But as they entangled themselves and got into wrong association, you might find that they would degrade in their consciousness and degrade in their activities. So I'll answer your question as we can. So when the jiva first comes from the detached region, he's quite elevated in his consciousness, but he's thrown into the material world, he's entangled, and due to the energies of the material world of enticing one to enjoy and being a separate enjoyer, he tends to degrade himself. So the material energy works in such a way. Knowledge degrades after a while. Therefore, Krishna says, I come again and again to re-establish principles of religion. So these, yes, do you want to?
Hare Krishna, just wondering, what does speciation mean?
Right.
You said you mentioned.
Speciation.
Yeah, what does it mean?
What does it mean? It means different beings, such as birds, beasts, insects, anything you like. You know, there's 8,400,000 different species of life. So speciation means that different types of bodies for the jiva to inhabit. And the systems, how the jiva inhabits them, is an automatic system because the consciousness drives you into specific species. The species are already there, particular types of body to suit particular mentalities. So this is all arrangement of the Lord, which is way beyond any comprehend. It's inconceivable. Same time, when you get AI, you know, in AI, it's very complex. You can see it's hinting at such of the glories of the Lord. If I speak on my phone about I need some new trousers or something, let's say, you'll get lots of adverts coming up. You know, AI is very, very complex. So if they can do it, and also on a simple little microchip, so much information, you can get the whole of the British Library on one little chip. So it's not too inconceivable to recognize that Krishna, through his Adibhuta principle, the Adhyatmic, the Adideva, working the Adibhuta principle on the Adhyatma, the jiva, he's throwing him, covering him, and giving endless facility for him to enjoy himself. And when he enters into this material world, everything is automatically connected up. So therefore, if you study something of quantum physics, you'll find many of the physicists, even people like Schrödinger, Thaler, Bohr, Einstein to some extent, some of our leading physicists will not disagree that your consciousness is linked with matter automatically. And therefore, you may have seen, or you may not have seen, the observer effects of the two slits experiment. Have you seen that? Raise your hand if you've seen the two slits experiment. Right, so there's a few people here. Well, you should look at it, because it's a very interesting experiment. You go online, and Richard Feynman, one of the leading physicists, said if you think you can understand the two slits experiment, explain it academically, then you don't know then you don't know what quantum physics is all about. So the two slits experiment shows that when there is an observer, matter works differently, and when there's no observer, it works in a different way. So this is to do with light particles entering into two slits and acting. So they've detected that when there's an observer, either a physical observer or a machine, but the machine and the physical observer are the same, one and the same, because the machine is built by a physical observer, and ultimately the physical observer will be using the machine to see what the machine has observed. So you will find that it's a mystery as to why, when there is no observer, light works in one way, and when there is an observer, it works in a different way. No one knows why that is. But the spiritualists and the philosophers and the thinkers, they indicate, and Schrödinger and Bohr indicates, that this means that consciousness, as Prabhupada says here, the Adhyatma is entangled in the Adibhuta via the energies of the Adideva. This is what this indicates. Now, many atheistic philosophers won't agree, but why it seems to be the case. And anyway, Richard Feynman says such philosophers and speculators, with all due respect to them, he said that even if you have tons of PhDs, you can still be a complete idiot. That's what Richard Feynman said. But actually we do rather respect people who've got high education and high culture. Because people with high education and high culture, whether it's in the arts or whatever, they're exploring the energy in higher ways, you could say. The Adibhuta principle is working differently on them, and it's taking them up perhaps a little higher towards where the demigod's realm is, and beyond the demigod's realm there is the higher realm. So we do appreciate higher education. I mean, sometimes you can hear an opera singer singing beautiful songs about romance, and they sing it in so wonderful ways, and the tragedy of they depict the material world really well, and they really get into the emotions. So we do admire that. In fact, the Anubhavs and the Vibhavs and the Vichari Bhavs and the Sneha, Mana, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag, which are described by Rupa Goswami, are all explaining emotions. And he's taking them from one personality who was very expert at drama. And so these high emotions and high arts are all reflections of something great in life. And ultimately, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 64 excellences of Krishna are described, and the manifestations of the highest realms of ever new, ever ecstatic, ever enthusiastic love is displayed. Now, we may not feel that we have them kind of feelings, but according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Adideva principle, And the Adhyatma, which is the jiva, has been covered by the Adibhuta, which is the arrangements of the Lord, and they are covering up our original knowledge of some of these higher aspects of life. So the process of Krishna consciousness uncovers us entirely, whereas we will be able to feel all the emotions of the spiritual realm. So we have to have faith in that we are currently covered, yet there's something great in our lives, and we should explore what that greatness is. And this greatness is depicted throughout the Shastra in different ways, because Krishna, he can manifest wonderfully in Vaikuntha with the Lakshmi Devis. He can manifest wonderfully there. He can manifest wonderfully in Mathura. He can manifest wonderfully in Dwarka. So all these manifestations of Krishna are very wonderful. And in Vraj, in Vrindavan, it is said that there we find the highest manifestation. Therefore, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, manifesting in his dear Lalita form. And there, the highest realms of loving exchanges are taking place through bodies made of spiritual substance and senses made of spiritual substance. So the feelings and the emotions of the soul in its fullest extent is experienced there. So just see how Krishna is so wonderful. Such a powerful personality. He manifests this universal form, the supreme consciousness, supreme conscious being. He manifests his original form in many, many different ways and facilitates all the jivas. So the sound principle, which is spoken about in here, which we'll briefly touch on, because sound and heat is mentioned here. So the body, your breath is hot, isn't it? Your whole body is hot. In fact, because of the presence of the soul, which is the original energy of the body, your body is generating electromagnetic energy, but no one knows how. Your body is actually generating these things. So when Krishna, or in the Bible it says, thou shalt, it says that as well, but let there be light, right? The Bible it says, let there be creation. So that is a sound. So this is the original sound. So the sound is the order of divinity. Let there be creation. Or in our book, the Vedas, Prabhupada mentions that the jivas are within the body of Vishnu because of the previous creation. They exhibited their activities, then they were brought back inside Vishnu. So then, again, Krishna desired to wake them up. Prabhupada says, again, wake up the jiva, let them enjoy. So this is like, that's an order. So when the order ensues, then that is the principle of the Adideva, the Supreme Adideva. He's issued an order. So then the Adibhuta principle follows that order. So let there be light. No, let there be creation. We know in the Vedas from that sound comes ether. If you say something, it goes out in the ether, it's the subtle energies. And then the ethereal planes, the ether, manifests. Actually, we would say, and it's a fact, that the scientists, they're looking for, they know that there is something called dark energy, and they also know there is, what's the other one? Dark energy, dark matter. They know it's there, it's existing. They can't quite understand what it is. And just recently, that collide, what do you call it? That thing which is trying to look at small particles. Yeah, it just came up with a blank again, by the way, recently. I just saw a science clip, and it said they still can't find this. So we would suggest to them they should take a leaf out of the book of Marie Curie, because she studies psychic matter, and she studied mediums. So the psychics and the mediums, they work with these type of more subtle energies. So the ethereal plane, or rather should we say, that the atomic plane, the source of the atomic plane, may well be smaller particles, but the smaller particles become finer and finer and finer until they become ethereal mental energies. So this also indicates the quantum physics and the two slits experiment, because you will find that there it indicates how an observer affects matter. So Krishna, he issues an order, sound, from sound comes ether, from ether comes fire. So this indicates here, fire. From sound comes fire. So the ethereal plane, the subtle planes, enter into the atomic realm. The atomic realm, or should we say, transforms or devolves into the atomic subtle plane. Sorry, the atomic plane. You know, the protons, neutrons firing. All these, one second, all these atomic, they contain energy, and the energy is electromagnetic energy. So this is where the fire comes from. So the fire, Krishna says, from ether, from sound comes ether, from ether comes fire. So the fire that we refer to here is not necessarily the fire blazing, but the fire of and the energy of the electromagnetic energies which are in a cell, and they manifest the classical world around us. Because atoms, in their various combinations, form different elements. Did you know that an atom, if it's got so many protons, it manifests one type of element? And if it's got a different amount of protons, it manifests a different element. So gold, carbon, all these different elements, they all have different amounts of protons in them, which cause them to manifest a specific element. So the yogis from India, due to their mystic powers, they could create gold out of metal, right? So what they knew how to do is to infiltrate the protons, manipulate them, and change. This is indicated. Sorry, Papa, yes?
Can I really take it away from this technical talk?
Sure. Technical means science means Krishna.
Science, all these things that are of this day and age.
Take it away.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the Bhagavad Gita.
Sure.
And
That's
its
very
comments.
scientific.
And it's a very wonderful understanding that what we hear of the Adibhuta principle. It says here, it's in the it's chapter 11 actually, the universal form. The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and thus can be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me makes me the supreme goal of his life, who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I just got a very interesting text on that same principle only yesterday, so I can confirm, of course, what Krishna says. Because it was said by one of his great devotees, that is Srila Sridhar Swami, Prabhupada's godbrother. And Prabhupada said, if you want to know anything about Tattva, go and see Srila Sridhar Swami. He's such a scientific man. He said the same thing. He said, you will never understand, actually, you should listen to as many lectures as you like. You can read as many books as you like, he said. But you won't understand unless you've got the mercy of Krishna. Then you can understand. Ultimately, the two things link in. Not that we shouldn't read books, and we shouldn't hear lectures, but ultimately, to understand God, you need the mercy of Krishna and the mercy of his devotees, actually. In that way, everything can be understood clearly. But the importance of explaining to the Western world, which I was indicating previously, Prabhupada set up the Bhaktivedanta Institute, and me and Ram were discussing something called the Discovery Institute. The job of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is to go out into the modern material world and explain logically and rationally why God is there. If you do that, people might begin to think, oh yeah, perhaps that could be the case. And then they can then enter into more faith, because Prabhupada said, God is great, but you have to understand how great he is. And when you understand how great God is, then it will give you more faith and more understanding and more inclination to surrender to him. So the Adibhuta, that's why in the Vedas, everything is explained very extensively for particular personalities who might need to hear it in that way. Other people were not interested in science, but they'll be interested in the political angle, the Varna-ashram system that we have. And that's also a perfect system. So we need to explain that as well. So that is the basic principle of the Krishna conscious movement and what is up to. So this transcendental sound from God is an order. It comes into this material world. That is the Adideva, and the Adiyatma, the Jiva, are affected by the order, and the Adibhuta, the total material energy, is covering and throwing them and giving them endless possibilities. In the quantum physics, it's said, endless possibilities, many possibilities, many possibilities, because atoms and elements can manifest in any way you like, according to your consciousness. What you want, what you deserve, what you desire. The material universe, the Adibhuta principle, Sariputta Prabhu says, is responsive. I mean, the universe is a responsive body that it connects to us and works with us. So this is what's going on. Know it or not, that's what's going on. That's what the Vedas say. And you will find as scientific studies progress on, they will come to similar conclusions of that. And any scientist worth his salt will accept that. And that is the principle here. Okay, well, thank you for thank you. Yes, probably your question.
The cover principle, so like lust and the sense objects, they are also Adibhuta? Like
The last objects of the senses.
Yes, like lust,
Yes,
fear,
yeah.
guilt,
Lust, envy, greed.
all these emotions, feelings
Yeah, all the
are
emotional
coverings?
feelings within the material world. This is the Adibhuta principle working within you. You're reacting to it. So, what is the essence of life? You cannot deny the beauty of the female form, for instance. You cannot deny it. You cannot deny the beauty in this world. That is what the impersonal philosophers try to do. They want to deny it. But the Vaishnava does not deny it. He looks for the origins of it. There's one famous verse in the Bhagavatam, Vikrividam Vajavajaviritam cha Vishnu Sharanvanto Nisnidatavaniyadya Parambatam. That verse indicates if you want to understand how to kill the lusty desires within your heart, you should understand how the gopis and the manjaris of Vrindavan are acting. Because by hearing about their activities and hearing about their devotion to Krishna and their service to Krishna, all lust for this material world will be dissipated. And there's a book by Jayadev called the Gopi Govinda, the Gita Govinda. And that is his goal. His goal is to take you out of this material lust and replace it with the desire to satisfy the immaculate senses of Krishna. So this is very high, but you see the point that the Adibhuta is giving you a reflection of something which is a reality. So what we have to do is understand where the reality lies, and that is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Is that the Vedas is so broad that it teaches very simple truths to the most degraded, right up to the highest statement of any scripture. And the highest statement of the scripture you could say was the declaration of Srimati Radharani, when she, in the Karma Gayatri of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that Kamadevaya, that particular Gayatri is explaining the supreme position of Srimati Radharani and how Krishna is so attracted to her that he almost faints. And then she declares, "The beautiful one is mine." She says like that in our acharyas say. That Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead, Srimati Radharani declares, "The beautiful one is mine." In other words, he's become captivated by me. This is the highest of... So, just see how the Vedas is full of information like that. So, who can captivate Krishna? That is Srimati Radharani. And that verse, Vikrividam Vajravajravir, you should understand how Radharani is acting, how her manjaris are acting. And in that way, there's not a trace of lust in them. They simply want to satisfy the immaculate senses of Krishna. And That is their motive for acting. So Srila Gauragovinda Swami used to say, give all pleasure to Krishna. If you give all pleasure to Krishna, that's the only motive in life. Okay, I've gone over the top from my speech. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.